Hey everyone, so on this video we're going to look at applying and interviewing. Okay, that's the sort of two things we're going to look at in this video, and it's going to apply more to, I suppose, sort of trainees and NQTs. Now, as always, disclaimer, none of this is fact. This is all based on my experience as a educator and having gone through the process myself and having guided trainees and other NQTs through the process as well. So this video is to accompany the resource that will be linked under this. So if you click on it, it's a free resource. Click on it. It's basically the letter that secured me my first job. I've stripped it out of all the personal stuff and put loads of considerations and thoughts on there for you. So you could look at that and you can use that as a skeleton. But as always with letters, do not copy. Make sure it is your own. Use it as a skeleton. Use it as a way to generate ideas. But like I said, try not to copy because you will get found out. It's sort of applying really. So when you're applying for a job, I suppose there's multiple things you've got to take into consideration. It depends on the job that you're in terms of which subject it is. Some subjects are more in demand than others. From a PE perspective, I can say that, you know, having gone through and interviewed for NQTs and things like that, you know, I was having 60 to 70 applications per job. So for me, I had to become ruthless at making sure that what I was getting at the end of the day was an application that was fit for purpose, somebody that I knew could read, write, somebody that I knew had an attention to detail, somebody that fit the experience. And I think that sort of, you know, general rule of thumb is important for everyone to bear in mind, that realistically you've got one chance to impress them. You've got to make sure that it's done in the right way. So things you can help. So cold calling. So cold calling is a really interesting one. It's something that I didn't do until I looked at becoming a head of department. And that was calling the school, arranging a phone call with the head of department or the senior leader or the head teacher, and essentially having a conversation with them on the phone about the position. Go preloaded with questions would be something that I would make sure that you do. Get their name right, really important that you do that. You might have to book a slot, that's okay, because people can be busy. But really for me, I would say that cold calling is useful because it's getting them to know your name. So use your name at the start of the conversation, use your name at the end of the conversation, say your full name, okay? Get them to talk about their department or their school. People love talking about themselves. So ask questions and get them to speak about it. Essentially, it's putting your name at the back of their mind in their subconscious. There's no silver bullet, and I think this is the big disclaimer really. With the information that we're going through today, nothing that I say is guaranteed to get you a job, because at the end of the day, it's got to be the right school, the right person, the right application. For example, if I was going to relate it to, for argument's sake, an English teacher, they might be looking for an English teacher that has post-16 experience, all right, in A-level English language. If you haven't got that, it doesn't matter essentially what we do here, it's still not going to fit. So you've got to make sure that you read the person specification, you read the job description, and you make sure that you are a good fit for that job. It's always worth throwing an application form in anyway. They do take time, but the more of them you do, the faster you'll get at them. Proofing. You've got to make sure that you are proofing them, okay? Everything's got to be proofed. The amount of CVs, the amount of letters, the amount of application forms that I have simply thrown in the bin because people could not be bothered to spell check it, to change the font so it's all the same and make it look nice. Because at the end of the day, I'm looking for somebody that's going to have attention to detail in their profession. I don't want somebody that's just going to, you know, do a half job and not get it in right. So you've got to make sure that that's done. And at last, the letter. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail about the letter because the letter is done in detail with the resource that I've attached to this video. So essentially, what we're looking at is in the letter, it's got to be to the head teacher. Name's got to be spelt right. Remember that most head teachers are old school. So they're looking for an actual letter. Now, this might be different in 20 years' time when head teachers become a little bit more new school, but the majority of head teachers are, you know, possibly between the age of 40 and 60, and they are old school. They do like a letter. They do like it the same font. They do like it in one font that's easy to read. They do like it justified. So all these things are worth bearing in mind when you are writing a letter. But like I say, the letter information is on a separate document to this video, so we'll go into that in detail there. So hopefully sort of taking those things in mind, you've prepared your unique letter with a proofed letter and proofed application form. You've cold called the school. You've had a conversation. They know your name. It's in the back of their heads. You know that you're a good fit for the school. You think to yourself, okay, what is the next steps now? Well, hopefully. Now, in terms of interviewing, I suppose the first thing to talk about is humility versus arrogance, and this is a tough one because, like I say, personal experience, I found this really hard to negotiate. Some interviews I went in, and I think it's important to say at this stage, I've had in the region of about 16 interviews, and only been successful on 4 of them. So, really, that is something you need to get used to, is failure and feedback. So humility versus arrogance, I would either go too far one way and I wouldn't sell myself enough, or I'd go too far the other way and I'd sell myself too much. The only way you get good at that is practice and listening to feedback. Feedback is so valuable. Ask for feedback, get a feeling of how you are as a person in there. And again, it's trying to really get that sweet spot where you appear to be a humble individual, but you are making it very clear where your strengths are and the value that you're going to bring. Because at the end of the day, you have got to sell yourself. And honestly, that is the most uncomfortable thing. And I can say from interviewing loads of people that somebody selling themselves is something that is really hard for people to get. Because if anything, the majority of people actually undersell themselves considerably. Professionalism, this one's a big one. So questions that I would ask is, suit, jacket, tie, blouse, whatever it is that you're wearing, polished shoes, a belt, a tie, these things, it's how you portray yourself. And I understand that we're in a world where it shouldn't matter what you look like, it should be the quality of what you deliver. And we know that, ultimately that should be what it is. But ultimately, the bottom line is you only get one chance to impress. You get one chance to impress. You get one chance to get that first impression down, right? So don't dress like a peacock. Don't have don't go in a full white suit, Make sure that you look professional. Obviously, disclaimer, COVID. Handshakes, really important. Make sure we're shaking hands with people. A big one that people get wrong is, and I've seen this before unbelievably, is they shake hands with the head teacher on the panel, then ignore the rest of the panel, or they shake hands with the teachers on the panel, but ignore the business manager or ignore the head of governors. And it's like, what are you doing? Treat everyone with the same respect and treat everyone with the same level of professionalism, because at the end of the day, you want a job in their school and you've got to show them why you deserve that job and why you're a good fit for their school. Visit's an interesting one. Do you visit? Do you not visit? I've toyed with the idea of visiting. I have visited and it didn't go well for me. I didn't visit and I got an interview. I think ultimately visiting is an interesting one because it can determine whether or not the school think they can tell you there and then if you're a good fit before the interview, or they can tell you if you're not. And I think it's an interesting one. You'd have to gauge that, and maybe you get that through cold calling and having those email conversations with the head of the department or the head teacher. And the last one is relationships on interview. Now, this comes down to the sort of, I suppose, the actual lesson itself. They are looking for you to generate instant relationships. That's what they are looking for. They're looking for instant positive relationships with a group you've seen and had 30 minutes with. Keep it simple, right? Do not do anything that's overcomplicated. You are looking for bread and butter. Have you checked progress? Are they making progress? Can you form instant relationships? Don't try to reinvent the wheel. Keep it simple. Do something that you know is going to work. Stick to your strengths, okay? Look at what the school's about, yes, and that should inform your decision. But at the end of the day, they aren't looking for a total teacher. They're not looking for a teacher that is absolutely unbelievable. Quite frankly, they're looking for someone who can form instant relationships, who is a competent teacher for the level that you are at, whether that's, an NQT or a trainee, and somebody that's they think will fit well with the department based on your personality. So realistically, that's what you're trying to get across to them on the day. Hope this video has been helpful for you. Like I say, there is a letter that supports this to give you a skeleton and a framework. As always, I'd encourage feedback. Anything that you disagree with, don't think right. Stick it in the comments, and it's all good for conversation. So thank you very much.